Misinformation. Fact-checking farragos. Everywhere we look, we're questioning which information can be relied upon. One of the world's most reliable, experienced and credible medical journals has criticised Facebook's fact-checkings. I wonder what the consequences will be for them. Hello there, you 4.8 million awakening wonders. This is it. This is what it feels like to be present in the moment, receiving truth from a place of authenticity and honesty. You know that we live in a time where information is weaponized, censored, and mobilized, where we have to be careful about how we communicate. There's an interesting story that we've talked to you about before, where Facebook essentially censored particular types of information pertaining to medical procedures, their efficacy, and the processes by which they were brought to market. You know what I'm talking about. Let's get a little deeper into this story, because the British Medical Journal, a proper old and respected information resource for medical and scientific matters, has criticised Facebook's fact-checking. Phew. The editor of the British Medical Journal, one of the world's oldest and most respected medical journals, has written a letter to Meta's CEO, Mark Zuckerberg, to bring to his attention an incorrect fact check on one of its reports. The report was titled, "COVID-19 Researcher Blows the Whistle on Data Integrity Issues in Pfizer Vaccine Trial." Well, why would that be important? Why would data integrity be important in a Pfizer vaccine trial? Brooke Jackson, a former employee at Ventavia, a research company that helped with the trials of the Pfizer COVID vaccine, provided the BMJ with dozens of internal documents, photos, emails and recordings that revealed a host of poor clinical trial research practices occurring at Ventavia that could impact data integrity and patient safety, according to the letter. We also discovered that despite receiving a direct complaint about these problems over a year ago, the FDA did not inspect Ventavia's trial sites. The letter, written by BMJ editor Fiona Godley, further claims. The article has been peer-reviewed, legally reviewed, and subjected to the BMJ's high editorial standards. However, starting November 10, Facebook users started reporting problems when trying to share the article. Oh no, misinformation, fact-checking, wow. Some said they were unable to share. Others said their posts were flagged with a warning saying missing context. Independent fact-checkers say this information could mislead people. Others warned about the consequences of repeatedly sharing false information. What's becoming clear is that misinformation is an Orwellian term, isn't it? It's a word that means what people say it bloody means. It's like Red Queen in Alice in Wonderland. The truth's what I tell you the truth is. Misinformation means stuff that I don't like you saying. That's what it means. The BMJ's article was fact-checked by Lead Stories, a Facebook contractor. The BMJ described the fact-check performed by Lead Stories as inaccurate, incompetent and irresponsible. The letter adds, it fails to provide any assertions of fact that the BMJ article got wrong. That's one thing you'd expect. Can you assert a fact that our article got wrong? No! The first paragraph inaccurately labels the BMJ a news blog. The tools of condemnation are applied even in this critique, applying terms like news blog, which is an easily dismissible kind of, oh, it's a news blog. It's probably just some guy sat behind a desk, tapping away at his computer, masturbating. In fact, we can check because we can look at his search history. It contains a screenshot of the article with a stamp over it stating flaws reviewed. Despite the Lead Stories article not identifying any false or untrue in the BMJ article. I think if you're going to say something's untrue, you've got to identify something untrue in it. It published the story on its website under a URL that contains the phrase hoax alert. This is a time, perhaps more than ever, where you require legitimate resources when it comes to the verification of data. In the BMJ, we have one such source, a credible, reliable, legitimate, professional, medical, scientific organisation that are just being casually dismissed as hoaxes. So it's not only a situation where you can't search for particular terms or can't discuss particular terms. When a truly legitimate source is found that says, hey, we've got some questions about the way that those trials were conducted, here's our research, they just stamp it, hoax, and bundle it out the window. That's like a level of control of information that's, well, it sort of hints at an agenda, doesn't it? The BMJ contacted Lead Stories about the issue, but they allegedly refused to change their fact check. The Medical Journal also contacted Facebook directly about removing the fact check. The editors also noted that this was not the first time a credible article by an authoritative source of medical information has been censored by Meta. So really, we're not talking about misinformation and fact checking in some universally agreed way in the service of a higher truth. What you have to learn to identify for yourself is what agenda could be at play, recognize that financial interests are behind it. Identify too that whenever you critique or query that information, you're likely to be maligned as a conspiracy theorist and the information regarded as wacky, because that could happen if you're a vlogger, an individual, or a trusted, credible news source, as has happened in this instance. Here's Matt Taibbi talking on the subject, friend of the show. You can see him on Under the Skin soon, a fantastic interview. The British Medical Journal never said Jackson's story revealed disqualifying flaws in the vaccine, nor did it claim that the negative information calls into question the results of the Pfizer clinical trial. It also didn't claim that the story is serious enough to discredit data from the clinical trials. The BMJ's actual language said Jackson's story could raise questions about data integrity and regulatory oversight, which is true. So immediately the claims that were made are conflated with higher claims or more egregious claims and then dismissed on that basis to sort of shut down conversation. And that doesn't make me think that transparency, clarity, open discourse are utmost in the shared mind of the dominant forces in shaping this narrative. Once censorship becomes legitimized, you have to recognize that you may like the current form of censorship because it might line up with your agenda or personal opinions, but it may not always be the case. So I would say be especially vigilant if the censorship is being applied to an authoritative medical source on a legitimate medical matter and making reasonable claims, not extreme ones, and really asking for an open discourse. If open discourse is to be feared and shut down, what does that suggest to you? The real issue with the piece is that it went viral and was retweeted by the wrong people. As lead stories noted with marked disapproval, some of those sharers included the likes of Dr. Robert Malone and Robert F. Kennedy. To them, this clearly showed that the article was bad somehow, but the problem was there was nothing to say the story was untrue. Lead Stories editor Alan Duke explained that the term missing context was invented by Facebook. They just invented a thing. Missing context. There's some context required here. Language is power. What is a story or a narrative other than the use of language to lead you to certain conclusions? An invitation to place information in a particular order, context, precedence, and a set of hierarchies and significance. So if you start inventing things like missing context, it sort of sounds like it's come from like some digital god. But really, it's just some people have decided, oh, this is a term we're using now. Missing context has become a term to disparage reporting that is true but inconvenient. As journalist of the BMJ article Paul Thacker notes, they're checking narrative, not fact. That's amazing. That's an amazing distinction. It's like everything in this is true, but we would like you to look at it in this way. That's an invitation to change your perception of reality, not based on facts, but preference and opinion. The significance of the British Medical Journal story is that it showed how easily reporting that is true can be made to look untrue or conspiratorial. The growing bureaucracy of fact-checking sites that help platforms like Facebook decide what to flag is now taking into account issues like the political beliefs of your sources, the presence of people of ill repute among your readers, and the tendency of audiences to draw unwanted inferences from the reported facts. That's tyranny. That's a desire for total control, 360 absorption of your consciousness and your behaviour and your mind. Oh, we don't like that. We want to control that. You know, wanting to control the audience, the outcome, the inference, what you do in your own mind. That's beyond what even Foucault envisaged in his theories of biopolitics, the control of life. It's controlling perception, reality, consciousness itself. It goes without saying that in this environment, any negative information about Pfizer or any report of issues with this company's trials is likely to be upheld as meaningful by people suspicious of the vaccine. That does not mean one gets to exonerate companies based upon audience reaction. Oh, that could make people suspicious or doubtful. Oh, well, if it's true, it's true. Are we now saying that anything Robert Kennedy Jr. or Robert Malone finds newsworthy is suspect? By this method, we're taking stories that aren't anti-vax by any rational standard and making them anti-vax by association. That creeping inclusion is, again, Orwellian. That's a kind of, 4 legs good, 2 legs bad to 4 legs good, 2 legs better type move. Like the anti-vax doesn't just mean oh, I don't like vaccines, I don't trust vaccines. But if you don't like the mandatory vaccines or you don't like conversation about vaccines, I mean, how big is it going to get? Just as a thought experiment, put aside the subject at the centre of this issue. We know it's referring to vaccines and mandates, but it could be about anything. An article that could not be proven to be untrue, that didn't say anything that was untrue, was dismissed, labelled as untrue, called a hoax, controlled and censored and dismissed. Now, if you're okay with that, you are going to have to be okay with it happening to other subjects. And we don't know where it will migrate to next. Precedents are being set. Ideas are being established. Technologies are being unleashed. I think this is a time for particular vigilance and awareness. This new fact-checking standard bastardizes the whole idea of reporting. It's also highly convenient for corporations like Pfizer, which incidentally have extensive records of regulatory violations. As Thacker details, firms have successfully manipulated reporters and internet platforms into seeing a binary reality in which all critics are conspiracy theorists. That's mental, isn't it? That's something that I don't like. I legitimately and genuinely, obviously, have no opinion about what you should do, about your life and your body. And you're different from me. That's my guess. You're the same in some ways. You're different in other ways. And I'm on a platform where I literally would not be able to express an opinion, even if I had one. But what I find concerning is that if you disagree with someone, you sort of resort to a kind of a condemnation and criticism that undermines and takes away their right to even communicate. That's not fair. Disagreeing with one another is good and healthy. You can't just shut that stuff down at source. We don't have main and minor points of view anymore, he says. What we have is truth and conspiracy. After the BMJ episode, a missing context flag should be understood for what it is, an intellectual warning label for true but politically troublesome information. Wow, that's a really fascinating interpretation by Matt Taibbi there, that when you see that missing context, what you could take that to mean is, we don't like you seeing this. That context is already there. We already know that there's certain narratives that are upheld, certain pieces of information that it's safe to discuss, other types of information that it isn't safe to discuss. That's really plainly clear. They're doubling down in the wrong direction. They're moving at a fast pace in the wrong direction, morally and ethically, and for all of us. There's sort of been a disconnect from our basic humanity. The fact that at the end of this, we're all human beings that are alive. That the whole of this medical emergency, pandemic, lockdown situation is built upon the idea that human life is sacred, that we're meant to care about one another, that we're meant to undertake endeavours that are for the collective good. It doesn't matter whether you need this because of everyone. We've got to do the best thing to protect society. Well, on that basis, let's treat each other with respect. Let's communicate with respect. Let's allow each other to communicate freely. And if you disagree with someone, you don't condemn them as a human being. You invite them into your heart, into your life, acknowledging and accepting that you disagree. Because what's the alternative? You're going to disagree. I can't talk to my own bloody wife, my own children. We're going to disagree with one another. What's being created is a kind of calcified set of nodes, a sort of a pulmonary disconnect, where we're all just frozen in cells of discord. That's not a reality that I want to live in. And we can't allow institutions and organisations with the power that Facebook has to create a reality like that. There's some context for you. Now, if you enjoyed this video, please have a little look at this one. We've mentioned it already. And maybe have a look at this one over on the Awakening side channel. Please sign up to my mailing list so I can communicate with you directly about the stuff I'm doing live in the UK, for example, in March, April and May. Big shows all over the UK. I'd love to see you there. Stay free.